Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. Sure. What's going on, guys? Hey, Byron Rodgers here. Once again, Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. I run a private security company called Bravo Research Group out of Orange County, California. Today, we've got a special episode about home security. Good to go. I've done a lot of stuff around securing homes, but a lot of it's been kind of the VIP and the VIP space, a lot of big facilities with, a lot of resources, a lot of assets. So what I really wanted to do for this episode is bring a specialist in who understands a lot more about kind of the civilian-esque consumer side of security, stuff for, the civilians out there who are just trying to keep their families safe, the stuff for us when we get off of work while we're at work, like how we're keeping our family safe while we're out protecting people and things like that. So I got Andy Murphy here from Secure Dad. He also runs a podcast and talks about all this stuff. And so it's an honor to have him here. How you doing, Andy?
I am doing well, sir. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. It's an honor, man. I look forward to really kind of helping those of us who help protect other people understand how we can protect ourselves with this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So that's good to go. Good to go. So Andy, I have wrecked some people's intros before.
Okay.
So, going ahead and break it down, tell us a little bit about your background, which I think is going to be actually pretty cool here in a second. Where you come from, what you're about, all that fun stuff.
Sure, man. At the end of the day, I'm a husband, I'm a follower of Christ, and I'm a dad. And awesome. Those are the things that are really important to me. Being a dad, we're called to be protectors and providers, among other things, like being a bedtime storyteller and a Nerf target for your kid. Right. I was a Nerf target for about 30 minutes last night, and it was actually a lot of fun. Being a dad is like the greatest role that you can play in your life. And a big part of making your family happy, and I know you know this, Byron, is security. A lot of us don't think about that anymore. We think about being happy. We've got to have the latest car. We've got to have the nicest house. But a lot of what happiness is based on is being secure in who you are and where you are. And I, like other men, want to help them enjoy family life to the fullest. And that means that making sure that our families are safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. I agree 100%. And for the stuff we're doing and we're going to be talking about today, it doesn't take, you don't have to be a, black magic wizard secret squirrel to do this stuff.
No.
This is stuff that everyone can do. If you're a mom listening and, you got kids, if you just want to protect yourself, you're a woman just listening, you're like, yo, I need to be smart about how I protect myself. This is going to be a podcast episode for you, all the way up to if you're a protector like me and you have to leave, your family every single day for 16, 18 hours a day or weeks on end, and you really want to understand more about how to do that safely. We're going to dig into all that stuff with Andy today. It's going to be good.
It is.
So at your core, who are you, man? I like to get into the person before we get into the tactics.
Sure,
man.
man.
Actually just said that, but is there anything
That's
else?
all right. At a core, I am a person who realized that my personal safety is my own responsibility.
Boom.
And not many civilians realize that.
Yeah.
A lot of us, we feel like we're dependent on the police, fire, and EMT showing up to help us when we need it the most. And they will. Please don't misunderstand me. But in those first few minutes, it's on you.
Yep.
I've talked to plenty of police officers, and they're going to say, you're going to be on your own for a while. So you better know what to do. You better know how to react. There's some people who say, you need to be your own first responder. And that is true, because you need to have the mindset, you need to have the skills, and you need to have the understanding to keep yourself safe in an emergency and to protect those you love in an emergency as well. So at my core, I'm just a guy who woke up to the basic human fact that my life can be taken from me at any day. I may not see it coming, so I better be ready.
Yeah, 100%, man. I couldn't agree with you more. And we had an episode with Michael Julian on active shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he wrote a book called like just 10 minutes or
10 minutes to live. Yep.
10 minutes to live. Yeah, man. And it's a short period of time, but it's your entire life.
Right.
And it's going to be in your hands, and it's going to be the synergy, like literally the output of a lot of decisions you've made over the course of your life, either right or wrong, are going to, and the grace of God is going to dictate the outcome of whether we're ready or not, and I think that's really, really heavily to be considered. I think with also in light of this last, incident we just saw in New Zealand, while I was watching the film from that shooting, I think my condolences and respect for all the people involved, and
yes, absolutely,
prayers for them. But I think what really got to me was that guy was able to run through that whole couple of facilities out on the streets, run around in that whole entire society unchecked, unchallenged by good men.
Right.
And that just showed me that was an area of society of people that, they really hadn't previously thought about or dealt with the reality that they may one day be faced with protecting themselves.
Right. And it's morbid that the guy decided to live stream the event, but you can look at it and you can learn from it. And I think what a lot of people have learned from it is it was lightning fast. A lot of people don't understand how fast violence is. And you've got to be ready, and you've got to have the mindset to be able to say, I want to fight for my life, and I want to fight for the life of the people that I love.
Yeah. Yeah. And sitting there wondering, is this real? It's going to get you killed. Why is this happening? Going to get you killed. Why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. This is horrible. You don't have time for any of those thoughts when things go down.
Right.
Just like you said, you got to make these decisions before they happen, so you can have that sharpened instinct to react in a way that might help you survive, or help your loved ones at least survive.
Right.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say on that, the only antibody to evil men on this planet is good men by the grace of God. That's what I think. So this is the game. So how did you get into doing what you're doing with educating all this stuff? Was there a precipitating event or anything like that?
Well, yeah, actually there was. And it goes back to 1999. Back then, two students at Columbine High School decided to attack their classmates. I wasn't there. I was in high school at the time, and I went to school the next day, and I sat in my homeroom class, and I looked across the room, and I said, you know what? If one of my classmates pulls out a gun out of his book bag, the school resource officer is not going to get here in time.
Nope.
And so I've got to be willing to do something. I've got to be the one who takes care of my life, and I've got to be the person who takes the responsibility for that. And with that, I realized, okay, if something goes wrong, I need to know how to get out of here, and who am I going to grab and take out the door with me? That sort of thing. So that mindset began, and I started working on building my own situational awareness and the adversarial mindset on my own before I even knew what those terms were. So I was always this person who I watch everybody who walks in the door, what are their hands doing? I don't sit with my back to the door. I'm paying attention. I do look at my phone in public on occasion. I'm human. Don't judge me. But I'm one of these people who likes to look at what's going on around them. I enjoy reading books like Left of Bang and Gift of Fear. And I like to watch, the videos by, yourself and Ed Calderon and Yusuf Badu. And I'm that guy who gets into this sort of stuff. I find this stuff fascinating. So that really kind of changed my thinking way back then. And I was always this person who wants to make sure that my friends are safe. We'd go on a trip or something like that. I'd, call or text somebody and be like, hey, did you make it back okay? Yeah, sure, Mom. Thanks for checking up on me. I took a lot of that. But, just want to make sure the people that I care about are doing safe. And then back in 2015, I had a successful career as a videographer, doing a lot of stuff, met a lot of my career goals. And then at Thanksgiving of that year, God tells me you're going to do something different with your life. I start working on my writing career. I came across this guy, Michael Hyatt, who's a writer and an entrepreneur himself. And he asked, what's your passion? What can you write about all day long, every day, and not ever get tired of? And for me, that's family protection. I wanted to share, how I was protecting my family, because I know that there's other dads and other moms out there who want to share that mindset. So the Secure Dad started as a blog, then it grew to a book, and now it's grown into a successful podcast where I get to talk with and learn from awesome people like you.
Fantastic, man. That's awesome, bro. I love to see the trajectory of that. How did you said, one, Ed Calderon, Joseph Badu, if you guys don't know who they are, Ed was a narcotics federal agent down in Mexico for about 10 years. Now he teaches civilian survival tactics on a number of different levels. We got him on one of the previous episodes, Fire episode, all about human trafficking. We gave him 2 episodes. You guys got to check that out. Joseph Badu also teaches the hunter-killer program to the Marines. Look all that stuff up. Left of Bang, that school of thought and discipline. We also have him on it's within the first 5 episodes, I believe. As far as what you were saying here, Andy, you mentioned 2 terms, SA, situational awareness, and the adversarial mindset. You want to break those down real quick?
Sure. The basic understanding that I tell the people who listen to my podcast and the people who read my blog, situational awareness is simply just knowing what's going on around you, understanding it, and knowing how that affects your personal safety. And of course, the adversarial mindset is something that I love, and that is thinking like a bad guy. I was born with the adversarial mindset. I remember being in first grade thinking, I can take something off of my teacher's desk if I cause a distraction over here. Everybody's looking over here. I can go this way. But I'm a good moral person, so I never did that sort of thing. Yeah. But just there's that dark spot in my mind that tells me I could do this if I really wanted to. So I just have to reverse engineer what I think to try to take that from a perspective of a protector.
Mm-hmm. And why is the situational awareness so important?
Well, we were talking about the situation with New Zealand.
Yeah.
You see a car pull up and a guy get out who you don't recognize, dark clothes, got a firearm. You got to know immediately that this isn't good. You've got to get out of here, that sort of thing. And sometimes the signs of violence are just not that obvious. Sometimes, you walk into, the average Starbucks, you expect people to be calm. They're going to be keeping to themselves. They're going to be looking in their phones. So a guy who comes in with his hands, shoved down in his pockets, he's looking at everybody. He's looking around. He keeps his back to the wall. Those are the sort of things that are going to help you understand that this guy is different and I need to pay him more attention.
Yeah. You got to pay attention to who's paying attention.
Exactly. I will, I'll sit in church and I will, when everybody's like looking up at the screen, I take a look around at everybody else who is not looking. And usually the guys who are not looking are the police officers who are looking back at me.
Guys are like, exactly. The other players on the board, predators recognize predators, and that's good. And then the adversarial mindset, seeing things through the eyes of your enemy. I mean, this is how you stay ahead of the curve. This is how you make sure that you see all the gaps in your own security strategies, and scrutinize them and, punch holes in them before the enemy does, 2 huge components to security. Probably not new to a lot of listeners, but if they are new to to even one of the listeners, worth going through. Worth going over. Yes. This is the foundation of a secure mindset. Next question. What is your favorite quote, mantra, saying, etc.?
Sure. The quote that I like to tell people is from one of America's greatest philosophers, Mike Tyson. And he said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yes.
That is absolutely true. And I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
I used to be that guy. I was like, I think I have a plan for how this is going to work. And then all of a sudden you get punched in the mouth, either literally or emotionally or at your job. And then you find out maybe you weren't as strong as person as you were.
Yeah.
And I took a self-defense course. I studied self-defense one-on-one with an instructor for 3 months. Paid somebody to punch me in the face over and over again.
Heck yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm a whole lot better off now because I now know what to do if I get punched in the mouth, like literally get punched in the mouth. Yeah. And when it comes to home security, if somebody starts to kick in the front door, I know what to do. I can take those steps. I'm ready for that punch in the mouth.
Mm-hmm. And you realize you're not so fragile. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the fear is the worst part.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. You're not made of glass. You're not. Trust me.
You can get punched in the mouth. It's like kind of okay. Like it'll make your Mexican food kind of sting more than you want it to. Yes, but probably you'd be all right, And, unless, depending on the situation. But yeah, no, I love that, man. And it's true. I think after you get punched in the face, if you're not inoculated to it, that's when you really find out. That's where you go find your character, man.
Right. Exactly.
So moral of the story, get punched in the face as much as you can before you're doing it for real.
All right. And learn from it and grow from it. Embrace it.
Every time. Mm-hmm. I love that, man. So who should or shouldn't worry about fortifying their homes? Is there certain demographics you think shouldn't worry about it? Like if you're like in a rich neighborhood, should it be kind of something you're not as concerned with?
Well, you know what? Everybody thinks they live in a nice place until they don't live in a nice place, until the neighbor gets broken into, or you find out the people across the street are running a meth lab and you didn't know about it.
Yeah, or a brothel. Just happened to one of my clients, yo.
Oh, wow.
It's like highest end of the high-end neighborhoods. And it's some high-end brothel going on. I mean, like everybody's in the neighborhood.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, when you go into a neighborhood, you look at it and you think, oh, everybody's got their yards kept up nice and people are not parking on the street or whatever it is you're looking for in a neighborhood. But, it's something that we all have to be concerned about at one point or another.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you 100%. And, a lot of criminals drive to nice neighborhoods.
Yes.
Park on the other side of the fence, get out, and they hit you up. And they do it during the daytime while you're at work a lot of times too. I used to think like nighttime was the right time. Mm-hmm. Not so much when it comes to burglary. Like they know all you guys are at work, or maybe your wife's home with some kids, but that's when you're most vulnerable from what I understand.
Yes. Yeah. The common criminal isn't going to want to have a face-to-face throwdown with you. They're going to want to get into your house quickly, quietly, take what they want and leave. I think the average home invasion lasts 11 to 15 minutes. And these guys, they want to come in, they want to grab the stuff that they can easily pawn and make cash from and then go on. But you know what? You're right. A lot of us are worried about what happens at night, what happens when we're asleep. And there is a phrase that I've heard a few times, and that is when somebody breaks into your house during the day, they want your stuff. Somebody breaks in your house at night, they want you. And that's the big difference. And that's what we need to understand. Honestly, if somebody were to break into my house during the day, I feel like I'm ready for it. I don't have anything that valuable. Insurance is going to replace it. But if somebody breaks in at night, they're after me, they're after my family, that's when things are going to escalate.
Game on.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good phrase. I have not heard that before.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. In terms of weapons, because I know, you have children, or for our listeners who have children, are you using any specific safes for your gear or any type of like quick access control mechanisms for firearms and things like that?
Sure. Shopping for, a safe for your firearm is something that you could spend weeks and weeks and weeks on. So generally what I tell folks is they need something that they can access quick. A lot of people want biometric because it looks cool that you can just put your fingerprint on it and then the door pops up and you have access at that point. Some people have done tests where their hands are sweaty, which, if you're going to be in a situation like that, your heart's going to be pounding, you're going to have all this sort of stuff happen. Do you really want to risk using a biometric scanner that isn't going to work if your hands are sweating?
Because your hands, even if you're a gangster, grandmaster, black ninja, wizard, your hands can be sweaty.
Exactly. You can't fight what your body's going to do. We all have these responses. So you can have that. You can have something that goes in through a code. I generally tell people don't use something that has a key, because then you have to go find the key. Then you have to come back. You can have the key as a backup to get in case the battery dies on whatever safe you're using. That's fine.
Yeah.
I have seen people talk about the success they have with the locks that don't actually have a battery backup. Gosh, I'm forgetting what they are called.
We can look it up later.
Yeah, that'll be fine. But yeah, there's just locks that work all on their own. They don't need a battery.
Mechanic. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Fort Knox is a good company that makes that sort of stuff. That's the big, heavy stuff. Vault Tech has a lot of cool looking stuff. You can attach an app to your safe and take a look at it, make sure it's not been tampered with by your kids and things like that. But the underlying thing that you're looking for with a safe for your firearm is it going to keep it safe from your kids? Are they going to stay out of it? And then also, are you going to be able to access it quickly? So really, it's up to personal taste, really. It's what you want to spend, where you're going to put it. And if you have to plug it in, that sort of thing, make sure it's near an outlet or you have enough of a battery supply for it to last and make it work for you.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I have mostly conventional safes and things like that around the house, but I've been curious about the biometric stuff because it just seems so convenient. But I need to just get one and mess with it and get more well acquainted with it.
Sure, you can do a review. I'd like to hear it.
Heck yeah, good idea.
There you go. Write it off.
Boom. Awesome. So, any common misconceptions about home fortification that you're aware of?
Sure. Yeah. The biggest myth in home security is that you don't need to do anything about protecting your home until somebody breaks in. And that's when people start thinking about it. You need to think, home security is proactive. It's not reactive. We have to make plans in advance so that when something goes wrong, that we have a pre-planned course of action to follow, like a layered home defense strategy. And that's one thing that I like to talk to my folks about, is making sure that you have multiple layers in place so that if one thing fails, you still have other layers to fall back on to protect your family. Okay,
awesome. And that's what we do. The multimodal approach. I love that. So I guess we're going to get to answering that question a little bit more. What would be like the mindset? Is that the mindset behind home protection, or is there?
Sure. I think the mindset behind home protection is having a secure mindset, and one that embraces situational awareness and the adversarial mindset like we talked about. And then you've got to apply that to your home too, with something that is going to make sure that your family is safe when you're there, when you're not there, if you are personally there and your family's there and you're not. Something that's going to work for everybody. One thing I'd like to write about
everybody.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. It's simple steps. It's not complicated. Some of these things are actually going to boost the curb appeal of your home. I'm not recommending that you put bars on your window, even though in some areas that is necessary. And if you're in that area, you know where that is. But what families really need to do, they need to understand that they can be the victims of a crime. Yeah. Nobody likes to think about that. Nobody likes to go to that deep, dark place and says, what is it going to look like when two people rush through my door and start yelling and waving guns around? Yeah. And you have to embrace that. You have to look at it and say, okay, I'm not going to be scared about this anymore. I'm going to take what was once fear and I'm going to turn it into preparation, and I'm going to turn it into a tool, and I'm going to use it to keep myself safe.
Heck yeah. Dig that. Turn that fear into preparation and productivity. Love it. I mean, fear is I'm about to go on a whole nother podcast talking about that. Fear is a powerful motivator, man. And it
is.
I'll sit here and tell you, I'm a very brave dude. Like, I got a lot of audacity, and I got like superpowers I get from Jesus and stuff. So I'm not scared of a lot of stuff, but I allow myself to be afraid of things in order to really motivate the heck out of myself, like a reverential, respectful fear. We're in reality here, so none of us are surviving this. Make the most of it and be smart with what you got. I dig that. I love that. Principles and strategies. Let's get into that. So you were talking about a multi-layered approach. So principles and strategies for home protection. Break it down.
Sure. So what I do is, when I wrote my book, Home Defense, The Secure Dad's Guide, it is written around a 4-layered approach to how you need to protect your home. And that is discipline, deter, fortify, and defend. Now, discipline is a thing that not a lot of people think about when it comes to home security, and that's discipline for your basic behaviors. And that is like just as simple as going around and making sure all your doors and windows are locked at the end of the day. You got to commit to arming your alarm system. Don't do things like post vacation pictures. Like if you live in San Antonio, Texas, and you are skiing in Aspen, Colorado, people are going to figure out that your home is empty. So don't do those sorts of things. Don't tip your hand that you're gone. And those are those basic behaviors that we need to do, the small things, everyday, easy stuff that doesn't make our home a target. So next we have Deter.
Basically, real quick on that discipline, you need to, the civilian factor. The civilian, the factor of not being mindful, not being consistent, not being aware that danger is there, danger is present, and danger is watching. That is huge. Like that is one of the biggest things I think that silly villains get taken advantage of because they just be thinking nothing bad can happen and they do stuff like this. And
they live in a bubble.
And they live in that bubble until it gets popped. And some of these incidents we see online and that I post on Instagram, it's like a lot of people's bubbles get popped at the same time sometimes. Like I just, I'm like, this is a huge, like, this is not a component to this strategy to take lightly. This is the type of component to this strategy that you could do everything else right. You can implement, you can have the most gangsterous, biggest, baddest security strategy at your house, Fort Knox. And if you forget to set the alarm, or if you leave the windows open, or if you start posting pictures while you're out there, in Aspen skiing, you ruin the entire thing. So it's like,
exactly.
Whole layer of security, the human component, which is generally the failure mechanism to the whole entire thing. Social dynamics, like you can get put in a situation where you jeopardize the entire thing. I mean, if someone comes to the door dressed like the pizza man, you can just ruin the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, so you gotta, this situational awareness, discipline component, it really does take a mindset and a perspective, and you need to take it seriously. And I think part of being a good leader in the home is communicating it to all the rest of your family members who are in your crew to also take it seriously, because, little Jessica and Stacy and your wife and all the other ones that haven't had anything horrible happen, God bless them. And you don't ever want anything horrible to happen. They also can ruin it too. And that's going to be to their detriment. So, I don't know. I just didn't want that point to just go by and people like, yeah, but I'm going to get this machine that's going to do all the work, because it's not going to work.
Right. And people want to just go out and they ask me all the time, hey, what's something that I can buy that's going to keep my family safe? I'm like, well, there's not one product that's a solution for everybody. That's not how it works. If there's going to be one thing that keeps your family safe, it's going to be your mindset. It's going to be that discipline. Yep. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. We have a lot of people who read my blog or my book or the podcast and they're like, okay, I get it. But then they have a hard time going and communicating to somebody. Let's go back to that Mike Tyson quote, somebody who's never been punched in the mouth before, they don't know. So you have to find a way to talk to them and explain to them the world is a beautiful place, but sometimes it's dangerous and you got to be ready for that danger.
Yeah, 100%. And that's part of just the reality. It's like the painting behind my head. I
like that, by the way.
Thank you, man. I dig that. Thank you. Okay, so step 2.
Step 2 is deter. And honestly, this is the most overlooked part of home defense. You need to make your home a hard target. I mean, you work in executive protection, you try to make your clients a very hard target. And it's the same thing for us at home. We need to make sure that thieves don't, when they look at our house and they look at our neighbor's house, if your house is lit up, and the bushes are trimmed and you don't have a car in the driveway, but your neighbor on the other side, their home is dark. They've got a very nice weekend car, like, the 64 Mustang sitting in the driveway that says, hey, these people have disposable income. That house over there, your neighbor's house, is going to look like a much juicier target than your house. You want your house to look like it's going to take a lot of work to get into it. And
like, these people are paying attention. They got motion sensor lights. They got, Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go
Sure.
ahead.
No, man. So, we just need to win the fight before it ever even starts. And that is keeping the people, if you want to keep somebody from kicking in your front door, you've got to keep them off your porch, and then you got to keep them off your lawn, and then you got to keep them just passing by your house. That's how you win that. That's as simple as like we were talking about, just add light to entryways. And that's going to be something that really is going to make your house nicer. It's going to look good. And it's not going to be, you could probably get your family to go along with adding light to the outside of your house because that's not dangerous. That doesn't look different. And so that's actually one of the really key things into deterring someone from coming and selecting your house as a target is that it's so bright, it's so lit up, they can't hide anywhere to get close to your home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, man. It is a tactic. It's almost like that. You don't have to be the fastest guy. You just got to outrun in a bear attack. You just got to outrun one or two dudes. What I mean?
You don't. It's a race to be second slowest.
Yeah. But with regards to a lot of deterrence, it really is. If you look at the way predators hunt, they're going to be looking for the easiest target. They're going to be looking for the sickly, a little bit slower, easier target. And that's going to be the one that's going to be hit. Or they're going to look for the juiciest target. Like, this looked like it's going to be a big payday, So, this is kind of in that adversarial mindset. You've got to look at your home and look at your assets the way someone from the outside looking in would look at you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's good, man. Okay. What else we got?
So we got Fortify. And that is, strengthening your doors and windows. I was really surprised to learn over the past few years that the easiest or the most common way that criminals gain access to your house is through the front door and through the windows. I never thought about that, but the front door, a lot of people, they'll just kick in the front door or they'll go around to the back door. And sometimes the back door is left unlocked and they just, come on in. So if you really want to fortify your home, upgrade your locks. Don't use the cheap ones that you find at Walmart. At a minimum, use a Schlage deadbolt on all of your exterior doors, including the door between your garage and your home. I have an attached garage, and so there's a deadbolt on the door between the garage and the kitchen where we come in, and that is locked all the time. Because in family life, inevitably what's going to happen is one of your kids is going to go, they're going to take the trash out, and they're going to leave the garage door up. And if you are not in that habit of locking the door between the garage and the house, somebody can just walk right in, and you've made that really easy for them. And you've made your home a better target than maybe what your neighbors had going on.
Yeah.
And if you're concerned about somebody picking your deadbolt lock, I know that a lot of people like to pick locks and things like that. There's a thing called a flip guard that you can put on the back of your deadbolt, and it actually keeps the switch from flipping over and actually opening up the door. So that's like a $15 ad that you can put on your house. It doesn't look any different. You just put it on there and you're good to go. Another thing that I like to use for fortification is called a door jammer. And what you do is it's this pole and you wedge it up under your handle for your door. And if somebody tries to kick on it or try to push it in, it's a multiplier for strength. And it's going to keep that door from opening, and it's going to keep that door from coming in. And that's just a simple thing you can do. Nobody else knows that it's there. It's just something that you've got. It's a card that you can keep close to the vest and that sort of thing.
That's good to go. Because, I'm thinking if I was going to break into a house, I would probably essentially pull up with a moving truck looking vehicle. And I would go right over the fence into the backyard where not really much anybody could see me. I might sit there for a few seconds just to see what the I would sit there and see what the flow of traffic and stuff is like and see if there's anyone really paying attention. Then I would break a back door window or something like that as quietly as I could and try and gain entry to the house that way.
That's right. And that's one thing that I encourage people to do is go stand outside and look at your house and say, how would I break into my own home? And then you find those exploits and then you fix them. That's that whole adversarial mindset working for you. What would you do to rob your house? Yeah. And I like your idea of the moving truck because people are just going to see that, especially if you show up at the end of the month when people are usually ending their contracts, on their apartments or their rentals and things like that. That's not an uncommon thing to see at all.
And then, I, in my mind, kind of with my strategy too, I kind of plan on my house being broken into every single time before I leave. I'm kind of like, okay, so if someone breaks into my house, what are they going to get?
Mm-hmm.
And I make sure that everything that's out and accessible is all stuff that's like burnable. Like, okay,
Exactly.
Okay, come on in if you want to. I've got a King Corso and a Doberman. You can have fun with that, and then and then you can figure out,
Right.
the rest of the flow. But all my really valuable stuff is like double, triple layer secured with a number of different mechanisms. So that's kind of another mindset piece that I work with that I think they could value. People can benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
And then, did you have another step to this? Was it
Sure.
four?
The last one, the inner circle is called defend. And that's when we physically have to protect our family from an intruder. I recommend the use of a safe room for your family to gather in. That's a rally point that people can go to. You pick a room with minimal doors that can be barricaded. And I like to tell people, keep your old school wire phone because when you call 911, your name and address is going to pop up on their screen, and that's going to save you some time. And then also in your room, you need to make sure that you have windows that face the street, so that when the police arrive, you can open the window and communicate with them. And you can toss down a spare key on a lighted keychain and help them gain entry to the house quicker so they can find who has come into your home. And this will also help you, deploy your self-defense tools like your firearm and things like that. So, keeping everybody in one place. And with my folks, I tell them, don't go looking for trouble because you're going to find it. But with somebody like yourself who has a great skill set and knows how to do things like that, then you might be a person who can go out and move through your home and try to find that threat and minimize it as quickly as possible. But for the average person, I tell them, get in the room with your family, barricade the door. Your job is to protect your family inside. Let the police find the guy who's broken into your home. That's their job. Your job is to protect your family.
Yeah. Do what the SWAT team does. Contain and protect.
There you go.
Is contain that trash. Yeah,
Exactly.
Get to your spot, contain your family, protect them, and let the force multipliers for you get on the scene and overwhelm the enemy. And if you can sneak out that street side window safely, and they can facilitate you guys getting out of that building, fantastic.
Absolutely.
That's great tips for the hard room. And then fortifying that hard room. Like you can either take a 2x4, put some hinges on the side of the door. We've done this with some hard rooms, and drop a 2x4 in behind that door. Most grown men can kick a door in.
Exactly.
Especially if they've done it before and know how to do it. Doors are like, for civilians, y'all be thinking that you're safe behind doors if you lock the door. The door is like gonna take me about 2 seconds. Yeah,
right.
That's false.
Go look at your doors at home, folks. They're hollow. They're empty.
They're like cardboard.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's just cheap and it's easy to put in, but that's what we get stuck with. You can upgrade your door to a solid core door if you want to. You can have somebody come in and install that, and you can put a heavy duty doorknob and lock combo there. And I like the idea about dropping the 2x4 in behind the door, and that's just something you can keep tucked behind the door. Your kids don't have to see it all the time. Anybody who comes over, takes a tour of the house, they're not going to see it because it's tucked behind the door. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and the kids just got to know, like, yo, little Johnny, you come in this room, you take this 2x4 and put it in between these, two little holsters on the wall, and hide in this corner in the closet with the phone, and that's how you get down and wait.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. Maybe a ladder by the window, one of those,
for fire safety at least. If you're in the fire, you get your family to that room and you get out.
Yeah, 100%. Any medical considerations? Also, those would go in that safe room as well.
Right. You can have a first aid kit there. And another thing to take into consideration with your family is if everybody's rallying in that safe room, if you've got a 6-month-old, somebody's going to have to go get that 6-month-old and bring it in. If you got an older person living with you, your mother, your mother-in-law, somebody may have to go get that person and bring them back. Yeah. And what I have discovered in being a dad is that when kids sleep, when they finally actually get to sleep, they sleep really good and they sleep soundly. And for the first few years of a kid's life, they can't hear loud noises like a smoke alarm going off. And you think as high pitched as that is, the kids would hear it and they would wake up. But really, in actuality, they don't, because they don't really know that it is something that
dangerous
you need to worry about. Exactly. So that's why a lot of times parents have to go get the kid and come back. So, in the middle of the night, somebody breaks in, your alarm goes off. You can't count on your younger kids hearing them. So you might actually have to go and get them and bring them back in. And this is something that you all can practice during the day when you're not under stress. Walk through the steps, know how it goes. So when something does go wrong, everybody knows what to do.
Yep. And, a lot of times when we're coming up with strategies like this, the selection of the room is really important.
Mm-hmm.
You want to select a room that kind of in the flow of retrieving everyone. It's kind of at the end of the hall, in the right spot so it's kind of going to be a natural flow to this room. A lot of kind of the selection of the room is really important. And those are just some considerations. You want it to be street facing. You want it to be somewhere that everyone can get to easily. You want it to be somewhere that you can maybe visit a room or two and retrieve people and get back to easily. And the rehearsal of the plan is important. It's not going to be important until it's like dire. You know what I mean? So
right.
It's one of those things that you really want to make sure you go through with your kids, just like you're educating them about the birds and the bees and all these other stuffs. I don't have kids yet, but I'm sure I'm going to have to do all this stuff.
Oh, yes. Yes, you will. It'll change your life, man.
If I had to do this stuff, go over these types of drills with my Marines, then I'm sure go over with my with my family 100%. And I do, me and my wife, we got all kinds of plans, man.
Good deal.
Yeah. So what would you say that is the most important thing for someone to consider? If there was like one chief thing for someone to consider when it comes to home safety, almost like a ground zero, what would you say that would be?
Right. We made the point earlier about discipline and what you do every day. But I really think the next step in deterrence is the biggest thing that we all overlook, because so many people are like, what's the one alarm system that I can buy that's going to keep people out of my house? Or what's the best firearm to use for home security? And I'm like, listen, what's the right tool? What's something that I can buy to do it? But the best way to keep people out of your house is to keep them from choosing your house from being a target in the first place.
Yeah.
Don't ever let them kick in the door because they don't want to step foot on your property. If your neighbors' houses look like an easier, softer target, that's on them. You're not in charge of their house. You're in charge of your house and your family. So just keep people away by communicating to the thieves that, hey, this is going to be a hard target. It's not worth your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do a lot of that with the places of worship that, that I work with, man, and that my company works with. A lot of it is just like, hey, when you come to this house of worship, there are guys with guns here. Unapologetically standing out here saying welcome, smiling, being nice, being professionals, tending to anything you may need that's security related. But there is accountability in this environment. Slightly different, but it's the same type of thing, No,
I agree. Yeah.
That hard targeting. It's you should probably just go to the church down the street because this we're prepared, we're paying attention. I forget who it was, but I want to say it was like a tactic they used to clean up the streets of New York. They got like a new police chief in and one of the main things he did, or the subways in New York, one of the main things he did was cleaned it up. And by cleaning it up and by paying attention to the little things, it kind of set the tone in the environment. And they saw crime decrease dramatically because people started realizing like, hey, people care, There's a broken window and it just stays broken over there. No one really cares. Like, you can do whatever the heck you want around here, But if there is if that window gets replaced instantly, if everything's painted nice, clean, and pristine around here, okay, there's accountability here. People care. And humans have a psychological kind of that affects them, and they act differently in those environments, So, yeah, I would have to agree with you, man. Win the battle before it even starts is wisdom.
Right. And set the tone. I like that.
Yeah. So, they say rookies want to buy, are looking for tools and hardware. Professionals are looking for software mindset, because one mind, you can use any weapon once you're in that spot. But in terms of some tools, is there a certain alarm company or alarm system or anything like that you'd recommend?
Well, first off, thank you for calling it an alarm system. I don't think they should ever be called security systems because they don't sell security.
Yes.
These alarm systems, they're supposed to do three basic things for you. And that is alert you and a call center that, something's going on. They're supposed to make a loud noise and scare off whoever tries to get in. And then they need to document what happens through your video surveillance. So as long as your security system is doing those three things for you, you're doing good. And I know a lot of my friends who have moved into new houses, and there was an ADT sign in the yard, the security company sign. And they're like, well, I just left that out there. The last people had it, but I don't pay for monthly monitoring or anything like that. And I'm like, that's a mistake. You need to make sure that your house is being monitored, because what happens when you're not there to respond to a threat?
Right.
How else are you going to know? Yes, you're going to get an alert on your phone. Somebody's going to get an alert at a call center somewhere, and then help is going to be dispatched. Even though the caveat there is police are really slow to respond to alarms when people are not around, because there's so many false alarms that happen. So, make sure that you get a good alarm system. If you can do those three things, man, you're doing good. And anything more than that, honestly, is a bonus for you. I'm waiting to upgrade my system to when somebody comes out and, digs a moat around your house and puts sharks with, freaking lasers on their head out there.
No.
That'll be something worth going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
But chances are, you're okay. Just pay for that monthly monitoring. And if it does those three things, you're going to be fine.
Okay. Yeah. And you know what? It seems like that's like another layer that can kind of compensate for the human factor of, oops, I forgot to set my alarm. Oops, I forgot to set I forgot to lock the door, and I left the garage up. And, just the human factor of, we're just not machines, and we're not.
Right. Yeah. I like to talk about doing a family safety sweep, where that is every night, a member of the family, usually the mom or the dad, whoever's there, they go around, check all the doors, make sure they're locked, make sure that the alarm system is set to go, make sure that your garage door is down. If the dog needs to be in for the night, the dog is in, that sort of stuff. So that every day you just get into the habit of making sure that you don't make those human mistakes.
Yeah. Safety habits. Huge.
Yes.
Huge. Cameras, any suggestions on that? Like Nest cams, those cool? Like, what are you thinking?
Sure. Well, you know what? The Nest cameras have been in the news recently for all the wrong reasons. They were... People would be in their house doing stuff, and a voice would talk to them from outside of the camera, because somebody had gained access to their camera and was watching them. That's great, isn't it? So Google owns Nest, and what they said was happening was people were not using strong enough passwords to protect their accounts. So hackers were going in, and they would find a known email address that was associated with a Nest product, and they would go in and they would just hammer those email addresses and try to log in. And in a lot of cases, they were getting in easy, because people were either using repeated passwords, or they were using passwords that were not strong enough. So it was not necessarily that your next door neighbor was hacking your camera. It was, somebody in China watching you and your family. Yeah. And so while those things are cool, and as long as you set up a good strong password, I don't think a Nest camera is going to be a problem. I've actually been playing with a couple of Blink cameras for the past couple of months, and both of mine just up and suddenly died. So I had to call Blink and go through the process with them, and they're like, okay, we're going to send you 2 new cameras. As a matter of fact, I'm expecting them today.
Okay.
So
fixed it, and we're trying to fix it.
Exactly. But it was like 3 weeks before I noticed that my cameras weren't really sending me notifications. So
camming.
Yeah. They were doing their thing. But that's a little on me, because I wasn't looking at it every day. But you want to make sure that whatever camera you have, it's going to work. I still think that the Nests are cool. The connected home stuff is cool with the Blink camera, but you can still go to Best Buy, Sam's, Walmart, wherever you want to go, and you can see these big 8 wired cameras that go to the DVR and they record everything 24/7. Those are still good. You can go and get one of those. I would have those professionally installed, so that you don't have to worry about climbing up on the roof of your house and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you're going to go with the Nest camera, get a strong password. If you're going to get a Blink camera, you're going to have to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't die like mine did. I hope that these replacements aren't going to have that problem. So just be aware that they all have their quirks.
Sounds good. No, that's right. Moral of the story: get good passwords. And there's a number of different softwares to help with that now.
There is. And that's one of the things that that's my personal struggle as a dad is I wasn't taking the digital aspect of my family security very seriously. And over the last 6 months, I've been very open with, I'm learning this stuff. This is what I've learned. I want to share it with you. I want to make sure that your home Wi-Fi, you're not using those default passwords that come with your wireless router, because people can get in. They can own your system. They can do whatever they want to with it. And they can do some scary stuff with it. I don't know if you want to get into that or not. But yeah, your digital life.
What's up?
Sure. Okay. So with your home Wi-Fi, and I just did a whole podcast on this. I'm one of these people, I'm not terribly tech savvy. So as long as the thing worked, I was like, hey, must be good. Hey, it's good. All right. Now
we got fired.
Exactly. Yes. Now you can go back to playing iPad now. All right. So I never really worried about it. And I got to talking to a friend of mine who works in law enforcement, and he told me a story, and I don't want to repeat the exact story that he said, but he opened my eyes to what someone can do with your system if you don't know that they're there. And one of the things that people can do is, once they have your Wi-Fi router, as long as they're close enough to you and they have a device that's close enough to you, like if you live in an apartment complex, if there's 50 people in that complex, then 50 different houses can see your Wi-Fi. So you need to make sure that, one, it is password protected. Two, it's not associated with your name. Like I wouldn't name my Wi-Fi network Andy's Wi-Fi. You need to be like, oh, wait, and you guys named Andy 2 doors down. Okay, I know now which one is his network, that sort of thing. So, that predator comes in and says, I'm going to pick and choose here who I think I can get into easier. But once somebody does have access, they can do something as simple as, run their Xbox off of your Wi-Fi and slow down your stuff. And that's not cool. But also, if that person is into dangerous stuff like child pornography, they're going to use your Wi-Fi, your network, to traffic that stuff, not theirs. So that when the police are looking into this case, your IP address comes up, not theirs. And they're going to come knocking on your door, and they're going to mess up your life for a while until they know that you're not that person. So you really need to understand what is going on with your Wi-Fi. Make sure it is secure. I do something called MAC address filtering on mine. And this is a simple thing that anybody can do on all their stuff. If I'm not tech savvy, so if I can do it, you can do it. And that is, every device has a MAC address. It's like a VIN number on your car. And they're assigned by, Apple or whoever else owns their stuff. And so you allow your Wi-Fi network to see those devices. And anybody who tries to join that network, even though they know your network name and they know your password, if you don't have that third step of a MAC address that's approved for your network, they don't get access. Nice. So that's going to knock down a lot of people who are just going to try dumb stuff. Yeah. And it doesn't take a super hacker to get into this sort of stuff. It can be literally the kid next door who's going to mess you up.
Wow. Yeah. I just did an episode talking all about this digital stuff. It's crazy. It's another legitimate level of security that you need to understand and you need to be able to defend against, because a lot of things can happen. What do you think about all the technology getting into door locking mechanisms and things like that? Have you seen where that stuff's been getting used against the wrong people yet?
I have not seen a news story yet. And I'd actually like to know your opinion on this too.
Yeah.
I think that if it's somebody steals your phone, they have access to your house because you might use a Bluetooth connection to open it. Or somebody in Bangladesh, like you said earlier, can unlock your door for somebody else to come in. The old school way of breaking into a house, you have to be there to do it. You have to stand on the porch with the lockpicks and go at it.
Yeah.
It's too risky for me at this point, especially with these Nest cameras getting hacked so easy as they were. What do you think about it?
With the technology, man, like technology is permeating everything we're doing. But the reality of the game is, like you said, to have a failure point like a cell phone, to give someone such access to everything without any kind of mechanical protective mechanisms as well in there, I think it's a huge failure point to have. I think it's a gigantic failure point to have. People get kidnapped, things happen. And so, And also, we're still in this like Wild West, like technology is like the ocean or outer space right now, as far as I'm concerned. We're still in this like, heroes are emerging, hackers are emerging, techniques and things are growing at a ridiculous pace. Mm-hmm. And so I think before I would like put any of, really heavily put my safety, my client safety behind any of these technologies, 100%, I think there's a lot more evolution that I'd like to see,
That's wise. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's like putting a red dot on your gun. Like they're great. Mm-hmm. Make shooting really quick. Like they're really good. They're great. Like I have them on my guns, one or two of them, a couple of them. But at the same time, it does still take a battery. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right.
It does. It is still, really, really strong glass, and like it's another failure point. It just is. Mm-hmm. Like it helps you 90% of the time, but it is a failure point. And that 10% when it does not work, like when I was at a competition the other day and it was raining, and I was just like, yeah, if it ain't raining, we ain't training. And I was all like having a good time. And then I pulled my gap out in order to run my stage, and I was staring at like a big red flower for my reticle. The shot timer's going, and I gotta like now, like, all right, bro, backup sights, what you gonna do? Had to power through the stage. I was like, you know what? Technology's great, but you still need to know how to do it mechanically, I believe. So yeah, right. Layers, man. Keep them layers there. I think placement of safety tools we kind of went over. But do you have like a certain code? Like there should be common areas should have things. I mean, for me, it's like common areas, bedrooms where you're going to be most vulnerable and things like that. Do you have anything you want to say on that?
I'm going to tell people, make sure you have something in your safe room. If you carry during the day, don't take your carry setup off until you go to bed at night. Just keep that on you. So, in regards to keeping these home defense tools at the ready, definitely have something that's going to be in your safe room so that, in a worst case scenario during home invasion, you have something in there that you can use. If you're a person who has a concealed carry permit, and you go out for the day and you come back home, just keep it on during the day so that you have access to it. And that way you don't have to worry about having multiple safes and that sort of thing, or your kid getting hold of something they should not do. So you can have it with you. Yeah. There was a video that I shared, and I think you've probably shared it too. It was of, thankfully, a botched home invasion in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, where 3 guys bum rushed a door, got it open. 2 of the guys were armed, and the homeowner shot back, all in the span of 12 seconds. And so I'm thinking, like, this guy clearly had his firearm either on him or right next to him when he was eating lunch or whatever he was doing, because it was in broad daylight. So that guy having quick access to that tool probably saved his life. Now, I don't know the backstory behind it, but I was impressed.
They looked like they were trying to break in, and they were aggressive. And
yes, it was
not okay. Like it was like, oh, okay. Heart rate raised a little bit. Like that's game time. That's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it over and over again. And I'm like, oh my goodness, And there was, of course, we see this because there's the surveillance camera above the door. They didn't care. They did it anyway. And some of these intruders are just going to be determined to hurt somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another one that was kind of like that with a mom. She was home with her kids, and the intruder, like, it shows him breaking in, and I think she ends up shooting him. I don't know if it shows it on the clip, but it was kind of one of those where I was watching him break in. And I was like, bro, you're on camera and you're still acting like this.
Right.
And like, geez, man, like the whole sneaky criminal thing isn't necessarily the only kind of criminal in reality.
Right. And, you and I are logical people, so we use logic. Yeah. Some of these people who commit these crimes are not logical, or they're not in their right mind. They're on drugs. Their mindset is altered. Yeah. So it's, you're not always going to come up against a criminal who has a moral code.
Yeah. Yeah. Or is deterred by basic things that you think might deter someone who doesn't want to get caught or anything like that. Yeah. Outstanding. Tools for education in terms of home safety. You got any fun ones?
Sure. I'm a person who likes to read. So I'm definitely going to suggest, books like Left of Bang, Protecting the Gift, which is all about family safety from author Gavin DeBecker. But one of the other things that I'm going to tell you is go get hands-on training.
Yeah.
Go get
100%.
punched in the mouth like we talked about earlier. Go get firearms training if that's going to be your home defense tool. Know how to use it, know how to run it. Also, get training in emergency medicine. I've been certified in first aid. I've let my certification lapse. That's on me. And I want to get it back this year. That's my goal, is by the end of 2019 to get more emergency medicine training, because chances are that's probably what we're going to use more than anything else. Is, if we come up on a car accident, God forbid that our family's in one, we need to be the ones who get there first to try to limit the damage of that situation until the EMTs can arrive and provide better care to get them to the hospital. So make sure you get hands-on training, because you've talked about this on your podcast. When you get into a panic, your fight or flight or freeze responses are going off. You're going to default back to your lowest level of training. And that better be something more than just standing there calling 911. You better actually move your feet, move your hands, do what you need to do to survive and to protect.
Yeah, 100%. That is, you can answer that question better. Yeah, get some training. Get some training. Really, upgrade your software. The hardware is good, but upgrade your software and get yourself inoculated to the stress of things and some understanding of things, and that's why I post all those real world action clips, is so people can be like, that's how that went down. That worked. That didn't work. Evil exists. This is horrible, but becoming more well acquainted with reality is going to help you deal with reality a lot better, because a lot of us, just people that live normal lives, they don't have any bars of programming in there to really recognize and accept or effectively deal with evil if they're faced with it, I don't think.
Right. I'll tell you a funny story. You'll laugh at this a lot. And this is from me when I was doing my self-defense training. So my instructor, he would get in front of me, and I was about to demonstrate the move that I think it was a two-handed choke, getting out of that. And so he, squares up, and he's telling me, you have to be in a passive stance because you're not in an active aggressive stance everywhere you go. Like, okay, sure. So he takes one step for me, and I base out. My arms come up, my feet come out, and he's like, I haven't done anything. You're overreacting to the situation. Normal people don't do this sort of thing. You're not going to do this normal. I'm like, and I said this famous quote, I don't let people get that close to me. And he called me on it, and he said, okay, watch this. So he's like, let's just pretend we're passing each other on the street. So I start walking towards one end of the mat. He starts walking towards the other. He looks me right in the eye, and he's like, hey, man. And so me being the nice, polite person that I am, I'm like, oh, hey. And the next thing I know, I am facing the other direction. He has both hands on my throat with these like huge, mean killer eyes. And I'm like, how on earth did this just happen? And I was like, and I started going through all these questions. And in that moment, I panicked, even though I had just learned the move that I was supposed to execute. At first, it didn't come back. And that was a huge learning point for me. And it was, you said it earlier, when something goes wrong, you can't try to reason why it's going wrong. You just have to react. Figure that part out later. You will figure it out later if you survive the encounter, because you make the right moves when you're supposed to. So that's a funny one there of, my instructor put me in my place and helping me realize that, I'm not as smart as I am. And so, that's one of those, I had a plan and then I got punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
Sideways from there.
I think a lot of people, it's just like jumping into cold water. Like, evil is like, I can tell you a story, like when I first really came into contact with like catastrophe, and I was just like, what's happening here? You know what I mean? Like, it was my first night when we were going to take over Haditha in Iraq. And we showed up on top of the Haditha Dam. We painted skeletons on our faces. We drove through the desert and got ready to do the invasion. I watched the power to the whole entire city get shut off. It's like you're driving at 3 a.m. towards the city, and you're just like going over all these hills in the desert, and you're just like, we meet up with our Iraqi army dudes, and they're like Chismek, one Tuscan, like, Enta Muizin, Enta's in. And I'm like, oh yeah, what's up? Weird, crazy people. I never, you know what I mean? Like, you're sitting there like trying to synthesize all the things. Like, this is the guys we're going to be fighting with? Okay, cool. Hope they're all good, because some of them weren't. And then you're like, all right, this is about to happen. And I just remember, a Bradley flew past us, and they're unfortunately ran over an IED, and boom. And I remember staring at that explosion, and I remember it made a mushroom cloud, and I remember thinking like, wow, I thought only atom bombs made mushroom clouds. And then I
Mm,
remember kind of looking at myself and being like, dude, you're surprisingly calm. And I remember thinking like, this looks like a movie. Like, this seems like it's not even real. And then that voice inside me was like, you don't know what real is yet, son.
mm.
And there was that moment where I kind of was like, dude, you better get with the program, homie. Like, this is you. This is Dorothy. You're a long way from Kansas. This is real, bruh. Like, you are about to go into, and then we got our boots on the deck and shot APOBs into into a minefield and blew a huge trench into that minefield. It's like 100 and some odd, 101 grenades on a string with a rocket attached to it. Boom, blew a big,
Mm-hmm.
A big trail through there. Tanks went in, thunder runs. We started playing Led Zeppelin, green smoke. Went into the city, and you're running in behind these tanks, and it's just Twilight Zone. But I just remember the first couple of times I saw things like, and I'm listening to the rounds cook off in that Bradley and all the crazy stuff that's going on. I'm just staring at it, and my brain's just like, it's like jumping into cold water. So it takes you a second. Now, since then, when I've ran into things, it's just been like yes, this is evil. This is the way the world is. There's no why. There's no, and that's, I think, the edge that guys that have trained themselves have on a lot of civilians is you're going to achieve a higher level of violence more quickly in self-defense or as needed, because you can skip all the why me, this isn't fair, why is this happening, this is so horrible, I can't believe that's an arm on the ground, like all this different stuff, like just doesn't phase you because you're already acquainted with it. And that I believe can be trained for through mindset. Yeah. Memory lane, man. Are guns, next question, are guns necessary for home protection?
I'm pretty sure you and I both know people that we are glad don't own firearms.
This is true.
That are not prepared for, they don't know how to use it. So technically, the answer to that question, I guess, is no. But I think if you're going to own a firearm for self-defense, if you're going to make that a part of your layered home defense strategy, know how to use it, know how to run it, know, if I point it in this direction and I fire a shot and I miss, it's most likely going to go through the drywall. It's going to go into another room. It may actually leave my house. Those are all important things that you've got to account for with your firearm. So yeah, I think if you are going to train with it and you're going to use it, absolutely make it a part of your layered home defense strategy. If that is not your thing, it's okay. There are other things you can do to try to make yourself less hard of a target. But we know when you have a firearm, it's a force multiplier. It helps create distance. So if you're not into guns, you need to try to find something else that's going to help create that distance and be that force multiplier for you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a complicated question. Technically, I don't think it's worth it. Technically, I don't think it is necessary depending on the threat relative to the situation and the threat.
Sure.
However, the way I look at it is, look, if the bad guys can have one, I need to have one. Otherwise, I'm going into a poker game with no aces. Yeah, I mean, like,
right.
If they can have an ace, I need to be able to have an ace. If they can have, I need to be able to have the highest level of lethality. Actually want to have more lethality than anything that I'm going to be facing out there in this game, lawfully,
Right.
So that's the way I look at guns. I just, in my opinion, for me and my family, I want to be able to provide the highest level of protection, which will probably incorporate the highest level of lethality with regards to, my capability. But is it necessary? I think you can probably survive without it, and you can probably get by without it.
I know that I know where I stand on that issue. And you said, the bad guys are coming in with it. I should probably have one too. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah,
Don't be. And this goes back to you've got to look yourself in the mirror one day and say, what am I willing to do to protect my family?
Yeah.
Am I willing to sacrifice myself and my safety and my well-being?
Yeah.
Am I willing to inflict injury to other people? Am I willing to inflict an injury to a point that they might actually die?
Yeah.
And that's a question that every man has to answer for himself. And you have to be brave enough to ask that question and then understand the answer that you bring back. And that's where you start to be a protector.
Yep. And also the other side of protecting is, if I neutralize that threat, and I, ventilate that dude and he drops his weapon and he's not capable of defending himself, I'll throw a tourniquet on him. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'll
Exactly.
and throw a tourniquet on him real quick. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I'll stop the bleeding, start the breathing, protect the wound, treat for shock right quick,
Mhm.
That's okay. That's for me, that's part of being a protector,
Right.
It's one hand, it's just like the painting behind me. The quiet storm, but it's all, there's a time for everything, man. It's Ecclesiastes.
Right. Exactly.
Dogs. Effective, not effective. What do you think about dogs within a home security stratagem?
You know what? I am a dog person. I love dogs. So I absolutely say get a dog. Get a dog. And like I've seen, you've shared Instagram pictures and videos of your dogs. You can have intimidating dogs. You can have not intimidating dogs. But for the most part, and there's an important thing we need to understand here. For me, as part of the layered home defense, I want my dog to be able to bark at something that it thinks is wrong.
Yeah.
I want it to start, and I need to listen to those cues. Like my dog last night alerted to something, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And so he starts, digging at the back door, and I'm like, okay, so I let him out, and I go out there and I look with him. Let's see what's going on. I have to respect what my dog is telling me.
Yep.
But I want my dog to be able to alert me to a developing situation by barking. I am not counting on my dog to sacrifice his life for me, because unless your dog has had training, that's probably not going to happen for most of us. I like to use the protector hashtag on Instagram. And so when I click on it, the thing I see the most is I see young women with their arms around like a golden retriever or a lab. And they're like, oh, he's my protector. I'm like, well, maybe he is. Maybe he's not.
Yeah.
Don't leave that up to all, don't learn exactly. Don't leave that up to finding out at the worst possible time that your dog is going to run.
Yeah.
I remember this one dog we had. It was so hard to train, and I was actually, reading these books and stuff. And the one thing I got out of it was the dog is always going to do what's best for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So like
stimulus response creature. Yeah.
Right. Your dog is not he's not an AR-15. So
yeah.
So he it's a dog. So but you know what? Dogs are good for families. Dogs are good for the neighborhood and for your house and stuff. So absolutely. If you were looking for a reason to adopt a dog, just say that Andy and Byron told you to adopt a dog. Go for it this weekend.
Yeah, man. Your dog might even nibble on you while they wait for the cops to come. You may not have known that about your dog, but it could happen.
Right.
Yo, nah, man, I agree. I believe the dog is at the level of alert, deter and alert. If you come in my house when I'm not here and King and Truth don't know who you are, it's just going to complicate things. It's going to be complicated.
Right.
You're going to have 200 some odd pounds of dog. There's going to be yo, and they both got their nuts still. You know what I'm saying? So they just can get complicated,
Right.
So that's kind of one aspect of it, deterrence. The other aspect of it is also, alert, good luck sneaking in. And this is one where those little dogs really come in handy. Cause I personally am not a little dog guy,
right.
But you throw a little Pomeranian in the mix, you're going to know, because their life depends on their ability to hear things coming. Otherwise they're getting snatched up.
Exactly.
Those little guys will give you a heads up. Anything comes near, and then you can go ahead and lock and load and make sure where you want to be for the game.
Right.
So for me, the dog part of the strategy is primarily alert and deter.
Right.
That's where I fit that into the whole game. That's funny. But I agree with you 100%. People, we think dogs are as sentient and aware and conscious as we are. I think they love, and I think they feel emotions and stuff like that. But, it takes a lot of honor and things like that to really throw down and be willing to die for a person, even as a human,
Right.
So I don't think that's something you want to put on their shoulders. Do you have a favorite piece of gear, tool, or equipment that comes to mind with regards to home defense?
Sure. And, I'd really like to say, hey, it's a Smith & Wesson or it's a Glock or something like that. But honestly, I think the best thing that you can do for your house, and it goes back to deterrence, is buying something called a dawn to dusk light bulb. Now, what these things do, you screw one into your porch, and then you flip the porch light on and you walk away and you forget it. And there's a little sensor in that light bulb that is going to turn off when it's daytime, and it's going to turn on at night. And it's going to light up your entire entryway, and it's going to say to a thief, hey, I can't hide in the shadows to get here. Everybody in the street is going to see me trying to kick in this door. I'm going to move on. So for like $7, a light bulb can really help protect your family.
Yeah, and up your deterrence game considerably. 100%. Absolutely. That's good stuff, man. It reminds me when I was little and I used to play Army in my neighborhood. We would run around in fatigues, and I had this other buddy. Both of us went to the Marine Corps. We had the best time running around in fatigues, and like certain houses had those lights, those same motion sensor lights, and we hated them because it would be like we'd be sneaking by and the lights would come on, and we're like and we like run. I remember we had this one like kind of rich kid. He was like a pastor's son that we like drug over to my house. I was like kind of like in middle class, poor to middle class. And I remember we tried to play with him, and he sucked. He sucked at it. And I remember me and my buddy were like, come on, man, you got to hide. Like, you got to sneak around. And
you got to get dirty.
And maybe he was just smarter than us. And he's like, guys, what are we hiding from? The street, like, what are we hiding from? It was horrible. He just ruined. I don't think me and my buddy ever played that game after that day.
Oh goodness. But you know what? You need your kids to be like that. You need to have that instinct to hide and to run and to fight if necessary. And that's I'm glad that you're telling that story, because I would do that sort of stuff too. My favorite tool of choice in backyard battles was the plastic baseball bat. It wouldn't really hurt anybody, but man, I could swing that thing like nobody else. And just having those instincts, fight with your friends and that sort of stuff, that's going to help inoculate you to be, ready for what life throws at you.
It's true. That's true. Absolutely. No, that's absolutely true. Those play fights help for the playground fights that help for real life, Okay. Now, all these things we've talked about, can safety be achieved on a budget?
Yeah, absolutely they can. The biggest tool that you have in your home defense arsenal is your mindset, and you can change that pretty easily.
Yep.
And once you start to do that, you can start to prioritize what you need to do for your house. If you want to and you need to get a home security system, figure out where you can sacrifice elsewhere to pay for that monthly monitoring. Because, we'll all pay for Netflix, we'll all pay for Hulu and whatever it is that we have. But people are like, I don't know, $25 for home monitoring, that seems like enough. Well, you're spending $25 a month on all this other stuff that you don't need.
McDonald's and trash.
Right. Make this a priority in your life. But you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend yourself. You just need to change your mindset and make changes that are applicable to your situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. Most of it is decisions. Most of it is, hey, let's get some better light bulbs. Let's get some little like $umpteen pieces of equipment that'll fortify our windows and our doors. Let's get a little roly-poly ladder that we can put by some of the right windows. Let's get a couple first aid kits, maybe a trauma kit or two. You know what I'm saying? Let's get a safe for the upstairs and the downstairs. And let's, throw some cameras in some right spots. It's going to be a little bit more spendy, a couple $100 a pop. Mm-hmm. And let's get a good alarm system. There's lots of them out there. A lot of them work now. Maybe fortify a door to a hard room, maybe fortify a front door. And, you've pretty much really made yourself kind of a decent security strategy. And it costs you a couple G's at the most.
Right.
But in terms of quality of life, if it keeps what's most important to you safe, and you're going to get what you pay for, then I think it's a really smart thing to invest in.
Right. And, when things go sideways and somebody is kicking in your front door, you will have wished you had spent whatever it cost to make that situation stop.
Yeah.
And that's, don't have remorse over not doing what you were supposed to do when you had the opportunity to do it.
100%. and hopefully nothing happens. And
Exactly.
and there's a huge probability that nothing ever will happen. But aren't you going to sleep better at night knowing that you've done everything you can just in case something does happen? Like, you want to roll some dice, bro?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm not gambling my wife and my son's life on that,
Yeah.
And plus, you may deter a thief from breaking into your house tonight, but you may never know that it happened because you did what you were supposed to do. Your system worked, deterrence worked, and you may not be able to say, "Oh, I know a guy ran off." That's just one of those things in life. You may not get to know that answer, but you were prepared.
Yeah, and that for us in security, that's just that's like the devil in the details. You do a good job, nothing ever happens. They start cutting back. Happens all the time because they're like, well, why do we even have you? Nothing ever happens because we're doing our job. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, that's got to be frustrating.
That's why you got to be taking notes on everything that happens, everything you do. Like, oh, we stopped this from happening, we stopped that from happening. Because it's kind of just that civilian mindset is like, nothing's ever happened. Nothing will happen to me. Nothing is happening. Why am I paying for this so much? So that's huge. You don't want to roll the dice on that. And as protectors, we can't always be home. So these are definitely things we need to make sure, our home is our number one and first enterprise. I think the fruit of that is something that speaks more about who we are as men and women and leaders and parents than really anything else, other fruit of our lives, really, So that's why I think this episode was awesome. What do you have any daily habits that you would suggest or that you do, Andy, that contribute to you being a better person, living your lifestyle, things like that?
Sure. I try to be a person who understands my place in life and where I need to be. As a dad, I am a servant. I serve Jesus. I serve my wife. I serve my son. I make sure that they are safe. That is my place. And I just stay humble every day. And I am thankful every day that I get to do those sorts of things. Also, when I go to bed at night, when my head hits the pillow, I'm praying, God, watch over us and keep us safe tonight, because as a human, I can only do so much. But there is it's a much greater power that I can call on when I need it. Yeah,
100%. That's good stuff, Andy, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for spending this time with us. What are you doing these days, and where can we find you? Where can people find you?
Absolutely. You can find me at thesecuredad.com. I have a podcast, The Secure Dad Podcast. It's on iTunes, CastBox, everywhere you can find, the podcast you're listening to now. You can find mine. And I've got a book, Home Security, The Secure Dad's Guide, that is available on Amazon.
Outstanding. Secure Dad, Andy with Secure Dad. Check him out. Good stuff. Up your security game. This matters to all of you because every single one of us has things we want to protect. The career is good, but man, you don't want to gain the whole world and lose the stuff that you're most responsible for. So
absolutely,
that's the game. Hey, Andy, it's been an honor, brother. I'm glad we got this time together.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, 100%. You got it, man. And hey, listeners, start looking for our live event. We got a live event. Check the website, Executive Protection Lifestyle. Check my website, ByronRodgers.com, and look for our live event. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you soon. See you on the next podcast. Thanks again, Andy. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast, and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account, because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. thank you, and thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's Byron Rodgers Motivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.